This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. In our last Standing Watch program, we talked about the fact that President Biden is not going to unify the country. And since then, more events have taken place, which only have reconfirmed that conclusion. Today I'd like to talk about another aspect, another example. And that has to do with the second impeachment circus, the way I call it, regarding President Trump, or the former President Trump, as many would say. On January 22, Breitbart published an article by Charles Hurt, who is the opinion editor of the Washington Times. Now, he said a lot of things which I don't even want to quote today, but this is what I do want to quote. Now comes round two of hopeless impeachment. It is all about preventing him from ever running for office again. In other words, Congress is scrambling to overturn the next election before it even happens. They are desperate to deny American voters the right to elect Donald Trump again. Talk about an insurrection. Now, the Associated Press stated the following on January 25. A growing number of Republican senators say they are opposed to the proceeding, dimming the chances that the former president will be convicted on the charge that he incited a siege of the U.S. Capitol. I think the trial is stupid. I think it's counterproductive, said Senator Marco Rubio. He said that the first chance I get to vote to end this trial, I'll do it, because I believe it would be bad for the country and further inflame partisan divisions. The mounting Republican opposition indicates that many GOP senators would eventually vote to acquit Trump, the Associated Press went on to say. Democrats would need the support of 17 Republicans to convict him. And then we read the following article by Breitbart on January 26. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul highlighted the Democrats' hypocrisy as he spoke against the impending impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. And he gave a lot of examples, which again I don't want to necessarily go into today. He went on to say this impeachment is nothing more than a partisan exercise designed to further divide the country. So another example, as I said, of dividing the country. Now, of course, it's not Mr. Biden, President Biden, doing it, but he is allowing it. He could intervene if he wanted to, but he doesn't want to. And so the Democrats in the House and in the Senate are trying hard to go through with this sham. Breitbart wrote on January 26, 45 senators voted with Paul's motion to raise the question of whether it is constitutional to impeach Trump after he left office. This vote likely serves as a proxy vote on the final vote of whether to convict Trump on the question if he incited an insurrection during the January 6 riots. Paul wrote on Tuesday that 45 senators agreed that this sham of a trial is unconstitutional. That is more than will be needed to acquit and to eventually end this partisan impeachment process. This trial is dead on arrival in the Senate, Paul wrote, because it means that only 5 Republican senators sided with the Democrats, but they need 17 to acquit Trump. John Hannity from Fox News stated it's all over. Now, not everybody would agree with that. Deutsche Welle wrote on January 27, all but 5 Senate Republicans have voted in favor of dismissing Trump's impeachment trial, making clear a conviction of the former president for incitement of insurrection is unlikely. Only 5 Republican lawmakers joined Democrats to reject Paul's motion, far short of the 17 Republicans needed to convict Trump. Now, some Republican senators who backed Paul's motion said their vote on Tuesday did not indicate how they might come down on Trump's guilt or innocence after a trial. Now, if there's going to be a trial, And if they are going to ask for witnesses, then this might go on for weeks, if not months. And so we haven't heard the latest yet. But I am convinced, my personal conviction, if you please, that Trump will not be convicted and that he won't be prevented by the Senate from holding a public office or running again for the presidency in 2024, which he said more than once he wants to do. Now, some of you may say, yeah, but Mr. Link has been wrong before. He has told us that Mr. Trump will stay in office, that he will not leave the White House, so to speak, and now he's gone, and President Biden is in charge. So how then can we trust anything he is saying? Like, for instance, right now, that Trump is not going to be convicted, that he is being allowed to continue staying or gaining a public office, or maybe even running for presidency in 2024. How can we actually even trust anything he says? Now, I'm not making this up. I pretty much got already memos to that effect. Let me just say that yes, I was absolutely convinced that Trump would be reelected, that he would stay in office, that he would not leave the White House. And we can clearly see that that didn't happen. So yes, I was wrong. Yes, I apologize for stating what I stated. It's not the first time I was wrong. It's not the first time I apologize. Now you ask my wife, and she will confirm. Now sometimes we are both wrong, and then we both have to apologize to each other. There's nothing tremendously unusual about saying something which turns out to be not the way it happens, and then to apologize. The Church of God has apologized throughout their existence. Maybe directly, maybe just through conduct. The Apostle Paul, the Apostle James, the Apostle Peter, the Apostle John, they all believed very, very clearly that they would still be alive when Christ returns. Paul even says in 1 Corinthians, those of us who remain, we will be caught up in the air with clouds when Christ returns. Now later, they realized, no, they would die. They would not experience Christ's return while still alive. Now, I don't necessarily read the words by Paul, I apologize for having said it earlier, and of course he was saying it with conviction. He clearly believed he was inspired by God to say that, otherwise he wouldn't have written it down. But he showed later through his further statements that he revised his original statements. And so the Church of God has made changes. We have made changes under Herbert W. Armstrong, who was a former leader, human leader of the worldwide Church of God, from which we, the Church of the Eternal God, derived. He made changes regarding how to count Pentecost. He made changes regarding the divorce and remarriage doctrine, and even some today still haven't accepted those changes. We in CEG, which sponsors the Standing Watch program, have made changes even when it comes to doctrinal understanding, when we saw that what we had been teaching was not in accordance with the Bible. So there's nothing wrong with admitting when you're wrong. And so I'm doing that right now. I made statements to the effect that President Trump would stay in office, that he would stay in the White House, and this turned out to be wrong. Now, I was wrong too in the past when it comes to the Pope. Now, I did say at the time that Pope Ratzinger, or at that time Cardinal Ratzinger, the Panzer Cardinal as he was called, would become Pope. Now, people thought I was crazy. Catholics thought I was crazy because he was far too radical, they said, and then he became Pope. So that was a correct prediction, but then at the same time, I was surprised how it turned out to be that he wasn't as radical then in his conduct as I thought he would be, and then he retired. And Pope Francis comes to power. I didn't expect that. I made this clear. I didn't expect that. Now, we still have two different movements in the Catholic Church right now. One, the left liberal movement under Pope Francis, and then you have the conservative movement under Cardinal Ratzinger, Pope Benedict. I have to see how this turns out, but again, it wasn't quite what I expected. But let me also say this. When Donald Trump stated at the very beginning that he would run for the presidency, I said, and there are many witnesses who can testify to that, I said, not only is he going to become the candidate for the Republican Party, he is also going to become the next president. And I was ridiculed. I was scoffed at because just about nobody believed that. And I turned out to be wrong. I turned out to be right. And I said that with the same conviction then as I said it insofar as his re-election is concerned. Now, having apologized, making this very clear, having said it in a way which turns out to be wrong, this cannot be and will not be the end of the story. Much more will need to be said, and much more will be said and written about it. And I will write a lot about it, the entire scenario, the past, the present, the future, because all of this is just a piece of a huge puzzle, and you cannot just leave some of the pieces unattained and unattended to and ignored, then you don't have a complete puzzle. There are prophecies which have to be fulfilled which are not going to be fulfilled under President Biden. At the same time, we have to make predictions. That's part of our Standing Watch program purpose. You see, we are explaining the news in the light of biblical prophecy. And that means of events which are still going to occur. And if you have the spirit of prophecy, now we sometimes may say things which turn out to be not what God really was trying to convey. But if we have the spirit of prophecy, we will have an overall correct understanding as to what is going to happen. So, are we supposed to make these statements or are we not supposed to make them? For instance, even the statements today in this program, President Biden is not going to unite the country. That is based on biblical prophecy. Because the Bible tells us we are going to experience a downfall of the United States of America. And, of course, a domestic, internal, economic downfall is going to happen under President Biden. I believe that very strongly. I also believe that other things will have to take place. The Bible tells us there is going to be a deterioration of relationship between America and, for instance, Europe. Now, I do believe under President Trump that deterioration would have accelerated. Under President Biden, it may not accelerate as fast, but it's not going to get much better either. Now, that's also a prediction for the future. And when I say that I believe that President Trump is not going to be convicted in this indictment, impeachment circus, that's also a prediction for the future, but it is based on a certain biblical understanding. And so I'm not going to shy away from making these statements. And I will explain, and I will apologize when I have made a statement which didn't turn out to be that way. No problem with that. But as I said, you have to keep the whole picture in mind. And let me also give you a word of caution. Don't be too quick in make a judgment call before you have heard all the evidence. Have some patience. Have also some mercy towards me. If the coronavirus hadn't struck me down, I would have said and written those things a long time ago. But now I am trying to come back with power, which I still have to get. I still don't have it yet. And so give me some time. Give me some patience. I will explain. No problem with explaining. But you wait before you make a final judgment call saying, oh, this is what happened. This is what he said. It was all wrong. He should apologize. Well, I did, but it wasn't all wrong. And that is what I need to explain. And that is what I will explain. And I hope you will have the patience to wait and then to carefully listen. I have been called a false prophet already for saying the things which I have said. Is that what the Bible says? Or is this a condemnation which you should be very careful about if you make it? So this is all I like to say today. I appreciate your continued support and interest in our program. I thank you very much for watching and for viewing our program. And until next time, this is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
Standing Watch is a presentation by the Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.